Cheryl?
Hold it.
That's just like the owls. When you say, hold it. I think I'm ready. You put the microphone on, fake. You know what I'm talking about? I'm interviewing you for an online journal that we're going to do a little piece about lesbian cinema and the owls for, you and I and other people in the collective. Okay? You can interview me too. I'll just pass it back and forth. Feminist teaching of queer film.
Great.
Okay, so the first question is, who are you?
Hi, my name is Cheryl Dunye.
And in this film I play?
Hi, my name is Cheryl Dunye, and in my new feature film, The Owls, I play Carol, without a surname.
Line for line from the movie. What did you do on the film The Owls?
On the film The Owls, I came up with the idea, wrote the script, directed, and produced, and performed in it.
And what do you do when you're not on The Owls?
When I'm not working on The Owls, I'm a college professor at California College of the Arts in San Francisco, so I do this big commute up and back. And I co-parent 2 kids with my former partner, Alex Juhasz.
So maybe that's a good introduction to me. You can just ask me the same question. It's on.
But you're overblown because of the light. So just sit on the edge, that's all.
How about in the bunk beds?
Okay.
In our glamorous Berlin youth hostel. This is how the collective does it, because the collective has no money.
Tell me your name and...
I'm Alex Juhasz.
And Alex Juhasz, tell me what you did on the film production.
I was one of the producers with several other people. We came together and decided to make the movie. We each donated a small amount of money, and from that pile of about $15,000, we shot a feature film.
And will you tell me what you do when you're not producing films like The Owls?
I am, like you, a professor. I'm a film professor. I teach media studies at Pitzer College, and I myself typically make small documentary films about personal and political issues, feminist and otherwise, that matter to me. I also am the mother of 3 children because I've blended my family and add one more to the 2 that you and I have.
Perfect.
Okay. And Cheryl, when you were making The Owls, what movies were you thinking about?
When I was making The Owls, you always have to say the question again. When I was making The Owls, I was thinking about a lot of queer cinema, because one of the classes that I teach is called Queer Film, and I go through queer film history. And after teaching so much about lesbian cinema, or the history of lesbian cinema, it just sort of fell upon me. So the films that I refer to are The Killing of Sister George, The Children's Hour. I was also really thinking about one of my favorite films that I've been carrying around with me for the longest time, called The Fox, a 1967 film with Sandy Dennis and Keir Dulce and Anne, I forgot her last name, but it's the film where it's a D.H. Lawrence short story, and a stranger comes and disrupts a lesbian nest, and one of the lesbians dies in the end.
And really quickly, because I want to try and keep this little thing short and just put the whole thing on the internet, why were those movies important to you? Those particular films?
Those particular lesbian films that I just mentioned were important to me because they were made in a period in queer film history before gay liberation, and before Hollywood sort of knew really what to do with queers in Hollywood, in films and queer stories. And there were ones where the lesbians and the queers sort of died of gay shame. And so my job and my interest was to, gay shame still exists, but how do we as gays sort of deal with our gay shame?
Okay. So, I was thinking about the same movies you listed, so I'm not going to list them again because you showed them to me and to the crew to say these are the influences. And so I would just expand on what you just said to say that what was really critical to me when I was watching the movies is, first, they're really stylish, and they have this particular, we were calling it noir, but it's not actually noir. They have this particular 60s feel, where there was a lot of experimentation, even in sort of normative cinema. So there's like strange jump cutting, and you didn't mention Muriel, strange jump cutting, and by Renee, yes, and sort of inventive uses of color and light, so a sort of expressionistic lighting, and really intense music scores that are overwrought. And I think that actually, I must hats off to the woman who did our composing, who really sort of understood the feel of those and went over the top. And that her name is Isan. But the thing I wanted to add was that they were all directed by men, so that they die of gay shame, but they also die of sort of patriarchal, like, that's enough of that. And it was really interesting for me to think about working on a film where there was still going to be murder and there was still going to be lesbians dying, but what it would mean for us to think through how violence works, not literally, but metaphorically, how violence works in cinema. So I think it really is a film much more about cinema violence than it is about, like, oh, I actually live in a world where women run around with guns. What does it mean in cinema to allow characters to go to that place when we take them there? And so we talked a lot about darkness and how going to a place where things are bad, where things are out of control, is good for you. But it's different when somebody sort of places you there, forces you there, than to claim that place yourself.